Hello students, welcome back. In this module, we are starting with algebra of continuous function and it is also known as continuity in an interval. What is it? What is algebra of a continuous function? You know addition, subtraction, etc. Similar thing with the continuous functions now. If you have two functions as f of x and g of x and they are continuous at x equal to c, then all these 6 points are very important. If a functions are continuous, then I can say that a constant into function is also continuous. What is that? A function k into f of x. In this case, k is a constant. So k into f of x is also continuous at x equal to c. Second one says the function f of x plus g of x is continuous at x equal to c. So in other words, if two functions are continuous, then as addition of those two functions is also continuous. The third one is about subtraction. So I can say the function f of x minus g of x is continuous at x equal to c. So if the two functions are continuous, then the difference of those functions is also continuous. Moving ahead with the fourth property, it says the function f of x into g of x is continuous. That is, if you have two functions which are continuous, then the product of those continuous functions is also a continuous function. And the function f of x upon g of x is also continuous at x equal to c. I can say if you have two functions, that is f of x and g of x, which are continuous, and if you divide them, it is still a continuous function. So in other words, whenever you have a function, either you multiply with a constant, or you add them, or you subtract them, or you multiply them, or else you divide them. In all these cases, if both the functions are continuous, its output always remains continuous. Also, the composition of two continuous function is always a continuous function. So, continuity in an interval, what is it exactly? Now, if I want to know in an interval of -1 to +1 at each of the point, is my function continuous? So, in this case, we use continuity in an interval. We have already studied the continuity of a function f of x at a point x equal to c. Now, what can be said about the continuity of that function in a specific interval? If a function is continuous at every point in the given interval, then the function is continuous in that interval. Assume if you have a function f of x in the interval of -1 to +1. So, if your function is continuous at every point in -1 to +1, then in that case, I can say a function is continuous in that interval -1 to +1. Now, let's have its definition. A real valued function f is said to be continuous in an interval if it is continuous at every point in that interval. Now, let's have an example. A function which is continuous at the entire real line, that is from -infinity to +infinity, is said to be continuous everywhere. My dear students, it is obvious that if any point has to range in between -infinity to +infinity, so in that range, if the point is satisfying the values and the function is continuous, so I can say what a function is continuous everywhere. Now, in the next module, he would be solving some of the problems on continuity in an interval. Till then, keep studying, rise and shine. See you in the next module. Thank you.